going to get started. We may have a few people coming in a little bit later, but that's okay. So, welcome everyone to this webinar. It is called Sink into Sleep. And we're going to be talking about what you need to know to get a good night's sleep. So, my name is Kelly Ryan. I am a registered social worker here at Niagara North Family Health Team, and I work at the Niagara on the Lake site. I also am trained in what's called CBTI, which is Cognitive Behavioral Therapy for Insomnia. Uh, and I do run groups, and our next group should be running in the fall. So before we get started, I like to just go over a little bit of an agenda. We're going to do some education on sleep. We're going to talk about insomnia because a lot of people who have sleep issues also experience insomnia. So we're going to do a bit of education and then get into some tips and ideas for how to improve your sleep. I am going to talk a little bit about CBTI and mindfulness at the end, but I'm just briefly going to touch on. So the first thing we're going to start off with is, what is healthy sleep? So for adults to have healthy, normal sleep, the most important thing is that you feel rested during the daytime, right? So it's about how you feel. You sleep for about 7 to 9 hours. That's the average for adults, right? And so if you sleep 7 hours and you feel rested, great. Maybe you need 9 hours to feel rested during the day. The next thing is that it takes you about 10 to 20 minutes to fall asleep, right? If it's longer than that, then there's difficulty falling asleep. And then another point that I like to mention is that we might wake up briefly, and this is part of normal healthy sleep as well. And those awakenings can be between 1 minute to 10 minutes and happen 1 to 4 times throughout the night. So that's part of normal sleep too. And that's also one of the questions that we get. Forgot to mention, if you have any questions, the chat is open and I'll be answering questions at the end. Plus, I have resources and this will be available on our site. So let's talk about why we need sleep. So according to the National Institutes of Health, a lack of quality sleep can result in a number of physical impacts: obesity, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease. Can also impact our mood, our cognitive functioning, our quality of life, right? It impacts memory, attention span, and it can contribute to mental health concerns such as depression and anxiety. So simply, why do we need sleep? Because we cannot survive without sleep. The longest world record without sleep was 18 days, 21 hours, and 40 minutes in 1986. Now, there may have been some other studies. However, in 1996, Guinness World Record officially stopped monitoring the record, citing harmful effects of sleepiness. So they realized that, hey, you need sleep to live, and encouraging people not to sleep is probably not a good idea. So they don't monitor it anymore. However, we all need sleep and we can't survive with it. While we're sleeping, our body also performs a number of repairing and maintaining processes that affect all of our body, right? So it's a time for our body to rest and to repair and maintain things. It can help with our mood. It can help your heart and vascular system time to rest. It helps regulate blood sugar, restore immune systems, relieve stress, among other things. So sleep is really, really important. I want to touch on what insomnia is. So insomnia is falls under 3 categories for you to be diagnosed with insomnia, which is having one or more of the following symptoms: difficulty initiating sleep, difficulty maintaining sleep, or early morning awakenings with the inability to return to sleep. It also has to impact you in a significant way. So, number two lists the number of things, how it could impact you: behavioral difficulty, mood, daytime sleepiness, fatigue, or energy. And the last one is that it has to occur for 3 nights a week, at least 3 months, despite adequate opportunity for sleep. So, some people will say, you know what? I only got 5 hours of sleep because I went to bed at 12 and I got up at 5 because I had to work and I worked late, right? That's not adequate time to sleep. So you have to also have that time frame to be able to sleep. So these are the sleep problems that most people experience. Sleep onset, which means you have trouble getting to sleep. Sleep maintenance happens when you have trouble staying asleep throughout the night, or you're waking up too early and can't get back to sleep. Mixed is exactly what it sounds like. It's having trouble falling asleep and staying asleep throughout the night, right? And paradoxical is an interesting one because it's when you underestimate the time you're actually asleep. So it feels like you sleep a lot less than you actually do. Sometimes you'll hear the term acute versus chronic insomnia. Acute insomnia is otherwise known as short-term insomnia, describes sleep difficulties that last for a few days or week, but not longer than the 3 months, right? So short-term insomnia can be traced back to external causes or life stressors: divorce, death of a loved one, major illness, some sort of kind of factor that is causing short-term or acute insomnia, right? It becomes chronic insomnia, or just a lot of times what we call insomniac, is when it is persistent for multiple months. So in the previous slide, we went over the criteria for insomnia. So that is what's considered chronic insomnia. People often feel distressed about their inability to sleep and the daytime symptoms, and then it becomes a cycle of they think that they can't sleep, and it causes difficulty sleeping because our thoughts are telling us that we're not going to be able to sleep. So it can really have a big impact on everyone's life. Treating insomnia or sleep issues, the first thing this little pyramid explains how we look and we treat insomnia or sleep issues. First one is to address other concerns. And when we say that, addressing other kind of medical concerns, and I'll go over a few of the sleep related medical concerns that could happen. So that's the first thing. Is it something else that's causing the sleep issues? Next, psychoeducation, right? So learning about sleep, why it's important, you know, why we need a certain amount of sleep, or why we're having sleeping problems. Next is healthy sleep practices, right? So learning how to put in a good sleep routine, and then behavioral strategies, right? Learning different things that we can change to change how our relationship with sleep and how we get a good night's sleep. And actually, the last form of treatment tends to be medication. And what we know about medication and sleep medication is just as effective as CBTI in the short term. And actually, CBTI is much more effective in the long term, right? So, medication is an option. It's not one we're talking about today because I am a social worker and I don't go into the medication side of things, but that is an option that a lot of people experience. So, moving on, what are some factors that cause sleep difficulties? So, this is what I call the 3 Ps. So, let's start with the predisposing factors. These are qualities that make us vulnerable to having trouble sleeping in the first place. These are often things that are just outside of our control. Could be things like genetics, if we're prone to be warriors, biochemical concern, right? So think about maybe what are some factors that may make us vulnerable to having sleep troubles. So looking at that, the next P stands for precipitating factors. These are triggers that usually trigger the first few nights of sleepless nights. They are typically short term stressors. They could be worrying about a presentation at work, battling the flu, could also be more serious, like experiencing a trauma, being diagnosed with a serious medical condition, right? These are kind of the short term factors that first initially cause the sleep issue. Now, if precipitating factors are the only problem, then sleep should go back to normal, right? But we know that that typically is not the case. So then we look at the perpetuating factors. So typically, after we have suffered through a few days or week of bad sleep, we often start to develop some habits to help us cope. These behaviors usually help us get through the first few exhausting days that follow poor sleep. So, kind of the short term, it's helping us. But these perpetuate our difficulty sleeping. So, they can help, the perpetuating factors can help us understand that why, even after the initial stressor is gone, that our sleep isn't resolved or back to healthy sleep. Well, one set of factors have triggered the first set of sleepless nights. A very different set of behaviors and thoughts continue to drive insomnia long after. So you might find yourself worrying about how you're going to function the next day or predicting that tonight is going to be another sleepless night. These thoughts may automatically pop into your head, and you may even have reasons for thinking this way. But one thing I can tell you is that no one has ever gotten a good night sleep after telling themselves, I'm going to get fired if I don't fall asleep right now. Some other factors that I want to look at that can cause sleep difficulties is shift work, right? Since our natural circadian rhythm, which we'll talk about later, is aligned to day and night, alertness is boosted in the morning and prompts us to be awake, which makes sleeping difficult at that time. Also, things like outside lights, noises are more prominent during the day, which causes difficulty as well. Busy lifestyle, stress, those are things that can also cause sleep difficulties, right? Could be a precipitating factor. So when that stressful life events happens, it can cause sleep disturbance when you're under stress. Another thing, anxiety and depression. Generalized anxiety may lead to racing or negative thoughts in bed, which can cause can cause difficulty falling asleep. Right? Worry may also turn it into a sleep pattern itself with concerns about not being able to sleep. So you might get kind of stuck with the thought um, that you can't sleep. You may be worrying about it during the day. Other sleep issues. So when we looked at our treating insomnia, I'll just remind you of this one. We're looking at the other, address other concerns now. So these are the things that we look for if there is another sleep issue. Sleep apnea, which is respiratory impairments that disrupt sleep, which simply means you stop breathing in your sleep more than usual. Restless leg syndrome, an irresistible urge to move the legs in the evening, that also can delay sleep onset. Periodic limb movement disorder is when a muscle twitches in the extremities during sleep. So it's not necessarily your legs, it could be a toe, it could be your hands, anything. Parasomnias. That's abnormal behaviors during sleep. This could be sleepwalking, sleep eating. So that's kind of your parasomnias. And then the narcolepsy, which is sleep attacks at inappropriate times. So kind of you're tired all the time. So now we're going to look at what controls sleep. So there are two competing systems that control sleep. One is the sleep drive and one is the body clock. So let's look at the sleep drive. It's a homeostatic system in your brain, which makes you feel sleepy. Every hour you're awake, the sleep drive gets stronger. So when we first wake up, our sleep drive is very low, gradually increases during the day, and then diminishes quickly as soon as you fall asleep, right? So you can see in the sleep drive graph that this person, say, got up before 6 a.m., 5:30, whenever they got up, that sleep drive is now starting to build and build and build and build and build. Then, say around 9, they're going to bed. It automatically starts dropping, do, 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 do. And then around 6 o'clock or whatever time you wake up, again, it starts building up again. I like to describe it as kind of a balloon. That's why there's the balloon picture there, because it's almost like you're inflating a balloon during the day with your sleep drive. This explains why sometimes when we nap for a long period, why it's difficult to fall asleep at night, because essentially what's happening is that balloon that you were filling up, that sleep drive, is now deflated and you're having to build it up again. So, what else controls sleep? The body clock, right? This is also known as circadian rhythm. And this is a 24-hour internal clock in the brain that regulates cycles of alertness and sleepiness by responding to light changes in our environment, right? So, this is our circadian rhythm, aligns essentially with kind of the light changes in our environment and teaches us or creates wakefulness during the day and sleepiness during the night. Also has some other impacts as well to the body. But typically light exposure causes the internal clocks to send signals to generate alertness. So your body sees the light and it says, okay, time to wake up. And as night starts to fall and the lights start to get darker, um, then our body produces melatonin, which is a hormone that helps us sleep, right? So it works together. Here is the next slide. The body clock, circadian rhythm, and the sleep drive work together to get good quality, healthy sleep, right? So if you're waking up at 9, your sleep drive is filling up, your circadian rhythm is saying, wake up. And same thing at night. Your sleep drive is now decreasing and your body is producing melatonin to try to prompt sleep. Most people have heard the term early bird or night owl. This is just kind of the idea that we don't necessarily all align up perfectly with, the sun or the light. So chronotypes is a term that refers to our natural preference of the body for wakefulness and sleep. So here are the four chronotypes. One is a lion, and those people tend to wake up around 6 and go to bed at 10. Their most productive time is at 9 to 2. Whereas a wolf, they wake up a bit later, 7:30. They're most productive between 1 and 5, and their bedtime is a little bit later, 12 a.m. Bears wake up early, 7 a.m., bedtime 11, and are most productive between 10 and 2, right? And dolphins are sensitive sleepers and often keep fragmented schedules. So typically wake up around 6 a.m. and go to bed at 11 p.m., but it can change. And they're most effective between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. So now we're going to break down what sleep is a little bit. So there are two types of sleep, what we call non-rapid eye movement, which I will refer to non-REM, and then rapid eye movement, which is REM sleep. A lot of times we hear like, oh, I'm not getting enough REM sleep. Well, REM sleep actually only makes up about 20 to 25% of sleep, right? So we don't need excessive amounts of REM sleep. Non-REM sleep makes up a total of 75 to 80% of sleep, right? So if you look at this chart, it shows you how it kind of, the hours that you are asleep, you kind of go through the different stages of non-REM, and then you're back up to REM a little bit, and then you're back down to the stages. I'm going to go through this a little bit more. So let's talk about those 4 stages of sleep. So there's 3 stages and then REM sleep, right? So the first stage occurs when you fall asleep, and it's usually pretty short. This is the transition period between wakefulness and sleep. So I say it's kind of when you feel half asleep. You can be easily woken up, but you're not exactly awake. So very, very light sleep. Stage 2, which lasts about 20 minutes, it can last up to 60 minutes though. Your body temperature begins to drop and your heart rate starts to slow down. This, like I said, can last up to 60 minutes, but is approximately 20 to 60, right? Then we go into stage 3, again, non-REM, where our muscles relax, our blood pressure and breathing rates drop again. And this is actually when our deepest sleep occurs, right? Is in stage 3 of REM. We are sleeping well. Last stage is the REM sleep, which is when the brain becomes more active. Eyes move rapidly. That's why they call it rapid eye movement, right? Because if you were to open your eyes would be moving back and forth. And this is when your body becomes relaxed and immobilized and where dreams occur, right? So again, we only spend a little portion in that REM sleep. And usually during healthy sleep, a person will cycle through all 3 stages of non-REM before entering REM, which takes about 1 to 2 hours. And it's repeated about 4 to 6 times each night. Another thing that I like to mention too, because we often get a lot of questions when we're talking about sleep, is sleep changes. So aging impacts everyone differently in different ways, including sleep. So some common sleep disturbances in older adults are shifting sleep schedule to advanced phase. Typically what that means is you're shifting. Maybe you used to be someone who stayed up later in the evening and like to sleep in a little bit more. As you age, that tends to shift, so you're getting up earlier and going to bed earlier. Waking up at night, research has shown that people, as they get older, they experience change in their sleep architect, right? So the non-REM and REM sleep. Older adults sometimes spend more time in the lighter stages of sleep and less in the deeper stages, which can contribute to waking up at night. Also, using the washroom, people get up to use the washroom at night, right? And again, remember, it's normal to have, 1 to 4 awakenings during the night for 1 to 10 minutes. Longer recovery from sleep changes in sleep schedule. So it takes longer to recover from things like daylight savings or jet lag because how our body regulates our body clock or circadian rhythm changes as we get older and makes it more difficult to recover. A lot of times, people do more daytime napping as they age. And research estimates about 25% of older adults take naps compared to 8% of younger adults. So, recommended sleep. I'm just going to quickly show this. I have another chart. But what I like about this is that it shows how when you're a newborn or you're young, you need a lot more sleep, right? So when you're a newborn, infant, toddler, school age, teenager, is starting to reduce a little bit, but it's not until you get to about 18 where it kind of stays at that 7 to 9 range, right? As you get older, over 65, it can sometimes be around 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Also, the the green on this chart indicates that it may be appropriate for some people. For example, if you look at adults, it says 6 hours on the other side. So some people uh, may be okay with 6 hours. Again, if you feel rested during the day after 6 hours, then that's considered healthy sleep. If you need 8 or 9, that's okay too. So this one just shows it um, a little bit clearer. You just get a better view of how sleep decreases with age, right? And so, like I said, once we get to that adult years, it's 7 to 9 years or 7 to 9 hours of sleep. So now I have provided you with a lot of education around the different types of sleep or the different stages of sleep, why sleep's important. Now we're going to look at what we can do to improve your sleep. There is something called stimulus control, which is basically behavioral instruction aimed to strengthen the association between your bed and sleep. Um, so what we're trying to do is break uh, the association with bed and being awake, right? So, what we're trying to do with stimulus control is to create the connection between bed and sleep. The bed is for sleep. So, this is what I call the rules, and there's 4 of them. This helps prompt a good night's sleep. Sleepy tired rule is only going to bed if you feel sleepy tired. This is different from fatigued. When you're not tired enough, you end up lying in bed awake, which breaks down the connection from bed and sleep because your bed becomes the place where you're awake. So, what you want to do is try to stay up until you feel sleepy tired rather than just tired. And when we say sleepy tired, we mean, you know, you could fall asleep. It may be you're starting to nod off, right? It's not just, oh, I had a really busy day and I'm tired from that. It's more sleepy tired. I'm going to go to sleep or fall asleep soon. Quarter of an hour rule is if you don't fall asleep after 15 minutes, get out of bed, right? Go to another room. This will get you out of the habit of laying in bed frustrated. Only return back to bed when you feel sleepy tired. So, with this, we always say we don't want you watching the clock. Just approximately 15 minutes. You know, if it's 12 minutes, if it actually 20, doesn't matter. It's just a rough estimate. Again, the idea is to associate the bed with sleep. Next rule, no napping rule, which is not usually a popular one, but daytime naps weaken the association between nighttime sleep and your bed. We talked about that sleep drive blowing up as a balloon, right? Napping, deflates that balloon. Also, people tend to sleep on other locations like a chair or a couch, and then that also weakens the link between your bed and your sleep. So if you absolutely have to nap, right, this could be for safety issues. Limit your naps to about 20 to 30 minutes and do it before 3 p.m., right? This is the most effective time to nap. And again, if you need to nap because it's a safety issue, absolutely nap, right? Safety first. And then the last rule is the sleep and sex rule. So your bed and your bedroom should not be used for any other activity, with the only exception being sexual activity. And that typically makes you feel relaxed afterwards, right? So basically, your bed should only be for sleep. A lot of people like to read or watch TV, play on their phone before bed. Do that outside of the bedroom, right? Try to really create that association with my bed is for sleep. The next section we're going to look at is sleep hygiene. So this is more ways that you can improve your sleep, right? It's an increasingly popular term used. Um, it's important for your physical and your mental wellness, right? So we're going to look at some sleep hygiene things that you can change both in your lifestyle and your bedroom. But first, I want to just quickly explain what a behavioral experiment is, because when I go through sleep hygiene, I like to give examples of what we call behavioral experiments. They're not we don't call them homework. We don't call them anything else. Experiment, because there's not a pass or fail. It's simply just to get more information of whether something is helpful or something isn't helpful, right? So it's really about trying out things to improve your sleep. If it's possible, what we say is to try each experiment for at least 5 nights to see if your sleep improves over time, right? Typically, we'll say make one change at a time, because if you make all the changes, it can be hard to tell which one is helping. So let's first look at lifestyle factors. These are some things that I'm sure some of you have heard over the years, and maybe some of you have not heard. So caffeine is really, really good at waking up our nervous system, and that can keep us awake in the evening. Most of us know that caffeine is found in things like coffee or tea. Watch out for other products that you may be consuming. It could be like chocolate, soft drinks, things that you don't necessarily think have coffee or have caffeine in it. Can be a good idea to double check. So a possible behavioral experiment for this would be to avoid caffeine 4 to 6 hours before bed. You could also check product labels in the evening, right? So there's a few things you can do in terms of caffeine. Nicotine, vaping, smoking. Although most people who smoke or vape find it relaxing, the overall effects of nicotine on the body is arousal. So it'll wake you up. Also, people who are smokers tend to start craving a cigarette at night and may get out of bed to smoke, which also disrupts your sleep. So, a possible experiment that you can do with, the nicotine, vaping, smoking is try to cut out or cut down on smoking or vaping in the evening, or avoid smoking or vaping if you wake up at night, right? So, just some ideas. Alcohol. Alcohol does relax the nervous system. However, as we metabolize it, we start to feel mild withdrawal symptoms that can wake us up. We also can feel dehydrated. That may wake us up, right? We may need to urinate more. So, a possible experiment for this would just be no nightcap. So, like, avoid consuming alcohol 4 hours before bed. Diet. So, hunger can cause wakefulness. So, if you're too hungry, also, if you're too full, that can cause wakefulness because your digestive system is hard at work. So, a possible experiment that you could do or a change you could make is avoiding larger meals close to bedtime. If you're hungry when going to sleep, have a light snack. Exercise. So, people who exercise regularly have better quality sleep. However, you want to be careful because if you do strenuous exercise right before bedtime, typically that'll wake up the nervous system as well and can impair our ability to fall asleep. Possible experiment that you can try with this is exercise regularly in the afternoon or early evening. Don't try to exercise to tire yourself out in the evening. It could be, you know, adding a walk to your day, just little things that you can do. Now we're going to look at some bedroom factors that we can make a change to. So, noise is one. Unexpected loud noises can wake people up out of the deepest stages of sleep. However, even lighter sounds that we adapt to can disrupt our sleep. Even though the sounds may not wake us up, often our sleep is lighter as a result. So, just because you're not necessarily waking up doesn't necessarily mean that the sound isn't disrupting you. So possible experiments for this could be, cease continuous sounds at night if possible. Sometimes it's not possible if you live, close to traffic. Not always possible. Could be putting on a white noise machine. It could be experimenting with earplugs. Whatever, whatever is helpful to, um, prevent the noise. Another thing, room temperature, right? We want our rooms cooler at night. Typically, we want it somewhere between um, 12 degrees Celsius and 24 degrees Celsius. Because anything that is colder or hotter can interfere with our sleep. So, an idea for this would be to set your bedroom at a cool temperature during night. Could They give the example of 18 degrees Celsius, right? So anywhere between that 12 and 24 degrees Celsius. Air quality. A stuffy room can make for poor sleep, while fresh air promotes sleep. It could be put on a humidifier, put on an air purifier, open up a window, depending, right? Because it may be too hot out to open a window. But just exploring some potential things that you can make changes to. Another one, mattresses and pillows. Older uncomfortable mattresses require replacement, but keep in mind that you're looking for your ideal firmness, right? Because if you get a bed that's too firm or not firm enough, right, and it's new, you may still have trouble sleeping. So, possible things that you can do for this would be replacing the mattress and pillows. Some people will put a board under the mattress to make it a little firmer. Range pillows, right? So changing that around. Number of things that you can do in terms of mattress and pillows, right? So just be mindful if your mattress is over 15 years that maybe the mattress that is causing some trouble. So those are some of the factors, bedroom factors and lifestyle factors that we can do to help improve our sleep. And then we've also looked at the stimulus control, so those four rules that can also help promote good, healthy sleep. Next thing I'm going to touch on quickly is CBTI, which is cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. What this does is it focuses on restructuring our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors that are contributing to insomnia. It also involves behavior changes, so that stimulus control that we talked about. It involves restricting the time that we spend in bed when we are not sleeping, right? So, really associating the bed with sleep. and learning how to relax. So some of the things are thought challenges that we do, right? We may do, other things such as mindfulness just for relaxation. But a big part of CBTI is filling out sleep diaries daily. So, CBTI, again, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, can be quite intense. I shouldn't say intense, it's a commitment to fill out those sleep diaries because if we don't fill those out, we can't proceed. That's where we get all the good information. Going to give you a few CBT skills that we sometimes talk about when we are um, dealing with sleep issues, right? So, again, a lot of times we're having negative thoughts about sleep, we're worrying about something, maybe we have a big um, project coming up. So, I'm going to give you a few just brief CBT skills. One is a worry box or scheduling time to worry. This sounds kind of silly, but I promise it works. What it is it's about telling yourself, okay, if something is popping up that you're worrying about, is training your brain to be like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about that now. I am going to put that in a box. And at, could be, I don't know, 9 a.m. tomorrow, I'll make time to worry about that, right? The thing is that normally takes time to do this. So you can't just try it one time because that box is going to pop open. Those thoughts are going to happen again. So you have to kind of put it in a box. Some people put it in a drawer or a purse if you're a visual person, right? Some people just say, you know what, I'm going to worry about that later. Typically, what happens is that just gives your brain some form of uh it it relieves some of that worry, right? Because you're like, oh, I can worry about that later. So scheduling time to worry can also help with those negative or unhelpful thoughts. Another thing that people find helpful is keeping a notepad by your bed to write down your worries. So if you're having trouble sleeping and say the worry box isn't working, trying to, okay, you know what, I'll write that down, then I can deal with it tomorrow, right? That can sometimes again help say, okay, I have a plan to deal with this later. Right now it's for sleep. Progressive muscle relaxation, which actually is a type of mindfulness, is a great relaxation for sleep. What it is, and there's lots of guided meditations, and I'll give you some resources for that after, is a progressive muscle relaxation guides you through your whole body to tense and release. So it'll start, say, with the feet and move up to the legs, to the hips, to the stomach, right? Your hands, and it tenses and then releases. A lot of people actually fall asleep when doing this, right? And when I've done it in CBTI courses that I have run, people often comment like, "Oh, that was so relaxing. I could fall asleep to that." So progressive muscle relaxation is one of my favorite, and again, it's a type of mindfulness. So, our last section we are going to do, sorry, is we're going to talk a bit about mindfulness. So, what is mindfulness or relaxation? Because in this case, we are using mindfulness as a form of relaxation for Ben. So, Jon Kabat-Zinn, who is kind of the guru of mindfulness, defines it as practice paying attention on purpose in the present moment without judgment. It's just being in the here and now. Anxiety often makes us worry about the future. What if this happens? What if that happens, right? We're worrying, we're in the future. Depression often keeps us in the past, worrying about the past or, dwelling on the past. Either way, we're not in the present moment. So mindfulness is really to bring us back to the present moment. One thing that I want to talk about in terms of mindfulness is and relaxation, how we're talking about it today. is that although most people find themselves more relaxed after a mindfulness exercise, the goal isn't actually about relaxation when it comes to mindfulness. It's about being present. So if you feel relaxed, then it's an added bonus, right? So the techniques that I'm giving you today are actually relaxation techniques, relaxation forms of mindfulness. I'll give you an example. You can have a mindful conversation with someone, which means you're really paying attention to their body language, what they're saying, you're taking it all in, you're listening. And you could be having a mindful conversation and be having a conflict with a friend. You're likely not relaxed in that situation, right? So, mindfulness is about being in the present moment and noticing. Relaxation is a bonus. And luckily, it is a bonus because it does help us. Some of these techniques help us with sleep. So, some options are guided meditation. There's lots on YouTube. We have some on our website. Again, we'll be uploading resources after when we upload the video. It may also be things as, paying attention, close attention to something before bed. So, an example I use is like food or a drink, right? Really paying attention. What does it taste like? What does it smell like? Does it have a feeling? Does it have a look? Does it make a sound, right? Really paying attention to those senses. Box breathing, which is this lovely box over here, is a very common type of mindfulness breathing exercise. And it can help us relax. It relaxes our nervous system, and that can promote good sleep. This one is really easy to do, which is why it's one of the first one that I share with anyone that I'm working with, which is the idea of inhaling for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, exhaling for 4, and then holding. So, what you do, breathe in through your nose, 2, 3, 4. Then we're holding it, 2, 3, 4. Then out, 2, 3, 4. And then hold that, 2, 3, 4. So in through your nose and out through your mouth. And you can really go around the box as many times as you want. This can sometimes also help distract from those maybe negative or unhelpful thoughts that we're having about our sleep and help you get a good night's sleep. So I'm just going to quickly summarize what we went through. I know I threw a lot of information at you, so I have kind of summarized what some of the key points were. So the average hours of sleep that most people need are 7 to 9 hours, right? But we know this can vary to 5 hours to 11 hours. But the most important thing is that we feel rested after we have slept. Changes in age, right? We need less sleep when we get older, thinking of a baby versus someone in their 20s to 60s, right? Here's a point I haven't mentioned, but I want to mention it here because it is a common question we get is we do not need to repay our lost sleep minute by minute. Our recovery sleep is typically deeper, right? So a lot of times people say, "Oh man, I only got 4 hours of sleep last night. That means I need my 7 hours of sleep, plus 4 more. I need to sleep for 11 hours." Right? That's not how it works. Our body will catch up on the sleep and our recovery sleep will be deeper. Another key point, which I think everyone is well aware of at this time, is that we need sleep to survive. We talked about the body clock and the sleep drive, right? How they work together. We've talked about stimulus control. Those were kind of those 4 rules, right? The 15-minute rule, sleep and sex only, no naps. What was the yeah. Next one is behavioral experiments, which is when we looked at the lifestyle and bedroom factors and trying something different to promote healthy sleep. Uh, Last thing again is on insomnia. Again, it's happening for 3 nights a week for at least 3 months, despite adequate opportunity for sleep, right? CBTI, which I just kind of briefly went over. I mean, we run a 7 week course on it. So I only got to dip into this a little bit. It's an evidence based treatment for insomnia, which is just as effective as medication in the short term. And CBTI is more effective than medication in the long run, right? Mindfulness is really about being in the current moment without judgment. One other thing about CBTI I want to mention, in case anyone is interested in doing it, is that we do not require you to stop sleep medication if you are doing CBTI, right? We don't encourage you to stop any medication without talking to a doctor. So sometimes that's a concern for people with doing the cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. It's like, oh no, I'm on medication. I won't be able to sleep without it. Not to worry, stay on your medication. So that brings us to the end, and I am just going to go over some resources. So there is this lovely book called Sink into Sleep. Perhaps you know where I got my name from of this webinar now. It's by Judith Davidson. It's very CBTI based, and it's step by step. It's easy to read and understand. It's a great resource. Of course, the website is great as well. There's two other websites I put on that have good information. They also have sleep meditation for women podcasts. So whether you have an iPhone or an Android, if you just type in sleep meditation, there's so many different types. Netflix has a series, and I put the picture here. It is called Headspace, a guide to sleep. Typically, it's like a 20-minute animated episode, and it'll talk for about 10 minutes talking about the importance of sleep or learning something new. And then it goes on to like doing a 10-minute mindfulness meditation. Then I put down the names of two guided meditations that I use quite frequently. Oops, sorry about that. On YouTube. You can really search for anyone. I'll provide the links for these, but the one is called Progressive Muscle Relaxation Guided Sleep Meditation for Anxiety and Insomnia Relief at Bedtime. The other one is 10-minute calming progressive muscle relaxation to ease anxiety, stress, and insomnia. So one is 10 minutes, the other one is an hour. Some people will want, they do the hour because they like to fall asleep with it on, right? But if you're wanting to do it outside of bed, which is preferred, a 10-minute one would be good too. So thank you for coming to the webinar. That is our presentation, or my presentation, on how to get a good night's sleep. So